Hello. In the next 5-7 minutes, I'm going to talk about business law major. Business law major. Sounds to be important. Business is a really central aspect of a human life. Now, at the time of COVID-19, we still have a lot of business, primarily online business. Just as an example, I have a friend who just before COVID-19 started a new business, online business, which involves selling certain product to customers, mostly Australians, but also customers from New Zealand and overseas. He actually very busy now during COVID-19 time because we buy less in shops. We actually buy a lot online. But what I want to talk is about the significance of the legal aspect of business law. So my friend is actually studied accounting, and most of the things that he actually requires his intention actually relate to law. For instance, he signs a lot of contracts. For instance, he needed obviously a website to promote his business, so he signed a contract for creation of the website. Or there's issues what we call in law intellectual property rights, certain rights which actually on product, patents, and so on. So also actually this issue required his intention. He hired several employees, and he signed contract with them. So once again, we need to study law. And when the employees work for him and sell his product, there's actually responsibility to act carefully, what we called not to be negligent towards customers. And my friend, as an employer, can be responsible for actions of his employees. Plus, he operates as a company, which requires further knowledge, fairly significant knowledge about company law. Plus, in Australia, we have something called consumer protection law, which actually requires an additional knowledge, in addition to ordinary business law, ordinary contract law, some knowledge, additional knowledge of consumer law, which protects consumers. And probably finally, once again about my friend, because he asked me many questions, one more thing, it's about international consumers. So today business is not only local, not only domestic, not only in Australia, but also has international implications. That is why my friend also needs to know some international commercial law, not just business law and commercial law here in Australia, but beyond. In other words, just based on this example of my friend in his online business, I think it is clear that business law, it's really important, obviously, to all of you who wants to be lawyers in the future, but also to any of you who wants to run a business, to be involved in some business activity which involves interaction with others, with other businesses, purchasing goods, working within a company. Law is everywhere. Law regulates business, and that is why I think business law major, it's a really important, really relevant subject that you may to consider. So what do we study in a business law major? We start, so first year, we start with some basic things, such as introduction to law. We start contracts, in the law of negligence. We do study Australian consumer law. Afterwards, after we build this foundation, we actually discuss much more advanced things, actually commercial law, company law, we discuss certain basic tools, basic aspects of business law. And finally, in the last step, third level, we actually go even further for more advanced units, taxation law. We actually provide some real case scenario, how if we actually demonstrate how business law works in practice. We actually, so what, for instance, we ask students to be involved in actual registration of a company, to be involved in the actual process of drafting a real contract. And also in our last step on level 3, we discuss some international aspects of business law in relation to international commercial law and international investment law. In other words, our program it's fairly structured, very coherent. We provide a very strong foundation, and afterwards we actually build upon this foundation with more advanced subjects in the area of business law and commercial law. So why to study business law subjects? So I think it's really important just as a skill, because our business law, our major strongly develops critical thinking, research, problems solving. It actually provides really important skills for your future career. For some of you who will study accounting and other areas, who want to be accountant, for example, some units in business law major actually required as a part of accreditation. For instance, introduction to law and company law, those units actually mostly required by accreditation bodies. Obviously, those of you who want to be lawyers, business law major seems to be a straightforward subject, straightforward majors that you very seriously should consider to take. And generally, as I mentioned, it's also mostly about skills, really important skills, whether you run a business, whether you actually work for government, you draft policy reports, or you're involved in certain activities in the company. It's all important. So I think it's really interesting, really stimulating, challenging, and we provide a lot of important, real information. And we do take into consideration the COVID-19 development, which is on the one hand, very challenging, but on the other hand, also provide further challenges for business law in relation, as I mentioned, online commerce, and also, unfortunately, such things such as bankruptcy and insolvency. So in terms of your career options, obviously lawyers. We have so many students who want to become a lawyer, who actually take business law major for obvious reasons. We study law, and we provide a very strong foundation for JD program. But not just lawyers. As I mentioned, commercial, if you want to be involved in commercial banking, investment banking, financial planning, international marketing, because we do study international aspects, government, okay? So many areas, so many potential employment options for business law major. Now, finally, we do have we noticed that some popular combination with business law major. We do have many Bachelor of Commerce students, students who study business law major and accounting, finance, human resource management, marketing. However, our major is not limited to Bachelor of Commerce, and we do have students from Bachelor of Arts, specifically students who study business law major and political science and international relations, work and employment relations, and in the other law major, law and society. So just an example. Thank you so much, and very much hope to see you all in business law major.